Today, we are talking about the 4 most common nutrient deficiencies that I see in postpartum and busy moms. We're talking iron, B12, folate, and vitamin D, and what they feel like, what your labs should actually show, and exactly what to ask your doctor at your next appointment. Grab a notebook and pen. Let's get into it. Feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, or like you've lost yourself in the postpartum chaos? Whether you're 4 weeks postpartum, 2 years in, or done having babies, you deserve to feel like yourself again. Hey mama, I'm Val, a functional sports dietitian, postpartum fitness coach, and a mama who understands exactly what you're going through. Welcome to the Strong and Nourished Mama podcast, where you'll find simple, science-backed strategies to heal your core, rebuild strength, and restore your energy without the overwhelm. If you're ready to go from depleted to strong, nourished, and unstoppable, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Hey, and welcome back to the show. I'm Val, your sports dietitian, strength coach, functional medicine nerd, and fellow mama who believes you deserve to actually feel good. Not just survive, actually feel good throughout motherhood. If you are new here, welcome. I'm so glad that you found the podcast. Go back and listen to episode 94 first, because today is basically part 2 of that conversation. And if you have been here, hey friend, welcome back. Let's get into it. Before we dive in, this episode is one you are definitely going to want to share. If you have a friend who has been told that her labs are fine, her labs are normal, but she still feels exhausted and she's still experiencing symptoms, send her this episode right now. Seriously, pause, text her the link, and then come back and listen, because it could totally change how she feels. And if you have not left us a review on Apple Podcasts yet, it takes 30 seconds and it helps other moms find the show. Okay. Let's go. So I want to start with something that I hear almost every single week, or maybe it's in my DMs, maybe it's from clients, group coaching, one-on-ones, or just from moms who email me after listening to the podcast. It goes something like this. Val, I went to my doctor. I told them I was exhausted. They ran blood work, but everything came back normal. Why do I still feel terrible? What is going on? Here's my answer every single time. Normal is not the same as optimal. Normal is not the same as optimal. It's not. Standard lab reference ranges are set based on what is statistically average for the general population. So that population is going to include sedentary people, people with chronic illnesses, people across every age range, men. It does not account for the specific demands of a postpartum body, whether you're 6 months postpartum, 2 years postpartum, or it's been 5+ years, especially for a mom who is breastfeeding and who is active and who is training and working and raising tiny humans on broken sleep. So when your ferritin, that's your stored iron, when it comes back at 15 and the lab flags it as normal because that's the conventional range, it starts at 12, your doctor checks the box normal, like it's an automatic thing, right? But 15, is that optimal for a mom who is breastfeeding and strength training 4 days a week? Hell no. Hell to the no, okay? That is extremely, extremely low. This is what functional medicine looks at differently, and this is exactly why I created the Functional Lab Review, a one-on-one session where I look at your labs through a functional medicine lens and tell you what they actually mean for your body, and then, of course, talking to you about your symptoms as well. I will tell you more about that at the end of today's episode, but keep that in the back of your pocket as we go through these nutrients, because I think it is going to make a lot of sense by the time we get there. Right now, I want to walk you through the nutrients I see depleted most often in the moms that I work with, and what the symptoms look like, what the numbers mean, and what you can do about it. So let's talk about iron and really get into this one, because I think it is one of the most misunderstood and most under-assessed nutrients in postpartum care. And I have a really personal reason for saying that, and we're going to get into that in a minute. But first, I want to talk about what iron actually does and what happens when you don't have enough of it. So let's first dive in with anemia. So anemia simply means your body, your blood, does not have enough healthy red blood cells to carry adequate oxygen to your tissues and organs, right? So you need oxygen to be able to live and do so many things. And so when your tissues and your organs are not getting enough oxygen, you feel it deeply. We are talking fatigue that sleep does not fix. There's brain fog, breathlessness. You're like, oh my gosh, why am I so out of breath? Weakness and a general feeling of just not being able to function the way that you used to. Now, here's where I really want you to understand that there are different types of anemia. And this can kind of get confusing, or you may not even realize this when you go and you request blood work from your PCP, from your physician. And the type of anemia matters because the cause, and of course, therefore, the solution is going to be completely different depending on which one you have. The two most common types we are talking about today are going to be iron deficiency anemia and megablastic anemia, which I will cover both. Iron deficiency anemia, which we are going to dig into this right now, is called microcytic anemia. Micro means small. Think tiny and small, micro. When your body does not have enough iron, it cannot make adequate hemoglobin. So hemoglobin is the protein inside red blood cells that actually carry the oxygen. Without enough hemoglobin, your red blood cells become smaller, micro, than they should be, and they cannot do their job properly, transporting that oxygen. Small cells, less oxygen, more exhaustion. That is microcytic anemia. Megaloblastic anemia, which is caused by B12 and folate deficiency, is the opposite, and I'm going to cover that in the next section after we fully talk about iron. But I want you to hold on to this concept of anemia as we go through today's episode and conversation because it is the thread connecting everything. Here's something that I wish every OB, midwife, family doctor told their patients before and after birth, and most don't. Some do. Kudos to them, that is amazing, but most don't. During pregnancy, your iron demands increase dramatically. Your body is building the placenta. The placenta is an organ. How cool is that? That you build and create a whole new organ when you're also creating life. Growing a fetus, okay, so you're growing your baby, and expanding your blood volume by up to 50%. 50%. That is a lot. Your body is literally making more blood to support your baby, the growth of your baby, to be able to create this new organ, and then of course sustain everything else that you need. And that requires a massive amount of iron, among other things. The fetus, the baby, is also actively pulling iron from you to build its own stores for the first 6 months of life. So your baby is prioritized. Of course, right? We've talked about this before, which is beautiful and it's right as it should be. But it means you are being depleted in real time throughout your entire pregnancy. And then you give birth. You lose blood. Some mamas lose a little. Some mamas lose a lot. I remember my OB coming in saying, hey, we need to recheck your stitches because you're losing more blood. The nurse went to go talk to her. So the OB midwife came in. And she's like, hey, I gotta check inside your uterus to make sure that, we don't have any leftover placenta or nothing's in there because I don't want you to get an infection, and that would be bad because I just kept bleeding. And so the stitches looked good, but I just kept bleeding. So she had to go in, which was, oh my gosh, it was like so intense. I think it was harder. I had a unmedicated birth, and I think that of her going like inside to check my uterus, that everything was gone, was more intense than 19 hours of labor and an hour of pushing. And I think my husband can attest to that because he was watching me like, oh my gosh, it looked like I was like having an exorcism or something. But anyway, she found a piece of amniotic sac that was in there. And so that was causing that. So of course, if that stayed in there, that wouldn't have been good. So I lost more blood than I would have because of that. Some mamas lose a lot more. A standard vaginal delivery involves blood loss around 500 milliliters. A C-section can involve 1,000 milliliters or more. And if you have any complications, hemorrhage, a long labor, tearing, that number is going to increase. It's going to be higher amount of blood loss. So if we add all of this up, you spent 9 months with dramatically increased iron demands. Your body took what it needed for your baby. Your blood volume expanded and then crashed at delivery with significant blood loss. And now you're postpartum, potentially breastfeeding, pumping, sleep deprived, and running on whatever iron stores you have left. And for most moms, that's not a lot. This is why postpartum iron assessment is critical. And the window I really want to flag is 6 to 12 weeks after birth. This is when your body has a little time to stabilize, but is still in active recovery. It is ideal. It's an ideal time to get a full iron panel run to see where you actually stand. Here's the problem. Most moms, myself included, are not getting that assessment. You go to your 6-week postpartum checkup, your doctor asks how you're feeling, maybe checks your incision, does a pelvic exam, and then sends you on your way. Full iron panel or any other blood work for that matter, almost like never ordered unless you specifically ask for it. And most mamas don't know to ask or don't even think about it, right? Because we have so many other things on our mind. And I really want to get personal here for a second because I think it matters. So I went back to check my own labs, and I've ordered my own labs before since I have this ability. And I was reviewing them, and I ordered myself blood work a full year, a little over a year after giving birth to my daughter in 2023. So I gave birth to my daughter in August 2023, and then I checked my blood work in November of 2024. And here's what I found when I looked back at my ferritin history. Ferritin is stored iron, which we're going to talk about. In 2020, my ferritin was 20. Oh my gosh. Honestly, how was I even functioning? How was I alive? And I remember that season, and I remember feeling exhausted all the time and just chalking it up to be so busy. And I had no idea my iron stores were that low. And when I got my blood work done, I didn't even think about it, right? Because 20 is in that normal range, which we're going to talk about. Now in 2022, I ordered blood work. Ferritin came up to 54. Yes, that is awesome. I love that. And I felt so much better, and that difference was real, and I felt it. So that was a year before I gave birth to my daughter. Then I had my daughter in 2023, and in 2024, a year postpartum, I ordered my own labs again, and my ferritin had dropped back down to 48.5. So this is still a reasonable functional range, but lower than my 2022 baseline, which totally makes sense because given everything that my body had been through with pregnancy and postpartum and 15 months of breastfeeding, like that made sense. I probably could have definitely added in some more support there. Now I am sharing these numbers because I want you to see that this is not theoretical. This happens even to me, a sports dietitian who knows exactly what to look for. And I was the one who had to order my own labs. I had to order my own labs because nobody offered to check them at my postpartum appointments. And that's not okay. And I think it's something that we definitely want to make sure that we talk to our providers about and that we have that knowledge base and we're able to have that conversation. So this is exactly why I want you to advocate for yourself, no matter where you are in your journey. So what does low ferritin, low stored iron actually feel like day to day? Let's paint the picture. You're exhausted in a way that sleep generally does not fix. You get winded going up a flight of stairs or finishing a workout that used to feel completely manageable. Your brain feels like it's running through thick fog. You're reading the same email 3 times and still not absorbing it. And you're like, what is happening? You feel cold all the time, even when everyone around you is perfectly comfortable. Your heart feels like it's beating a little harder than usual, especially during exercise and movement. And your hair, you are losing more than what feels like that normal postpartum shedding, and it is lasting longer than it should. So if any of this sounds familiar, here's exactly what we want to request. Write these down, re-listen to it, because I want you to walk into your next appointment prepared. So number 1, we want a CBC with differential. So the CBC is a complete blood count. This gives your doctor a picture of your red blood cell size, which we talked about, and count, and it can flag if anemia is present. Usually, this is going to be included in standard blood work. It usually is, but it's okay to be specific. 2, we want serum iron. Serum iron is the iron that is currently circulating in your blood. It fluctuates based on what you ate that day, so it tells us part of the story, but not everything. So we don't want to just rely on serum iron. Number 3 is TIBC, which is total iron binding capacity. This measures how much iron your blood could carry. When iron is low, TIBC goes up. Your body is essentially reaching out with empty hands, trying to grab more iron. High TIBC alongside low serum iron is definitely, it's a significant red flag. Number 4 is ferritin, your stored iron. This is the most important marker, okay? In conventional labs, flag ferritin as low below 12, okay? In 2020, I had a level 20 ferritin, which is extremely low. So just because the conventional range flags a low ferritin below 12 doesn't mean that that's okay. So functional, optimal for an active postpartum mama is 50 to 100 nanograms per milliliter. That is a massive difference. 12 to 50, holy crap. And it is why you can have a ferritin of 20, like me, get a normal flag and still feel completely depleted. I've been there. I've done that. Now, we want to make sure, again, we get that ferritin. Number 5 is reticulocyte count. These are immature red blood cells, your bone marrow's newest recruits, basically. So this marker tells us how hard your body is working to produce new red blood cells, which is important and helps us understand what type of anemia may be present and how your body is responding. Let's go through those again real quick. Number 1, CBC. 2, serum iron. 3, TIBC. 4, ferritin. 5, reticulocyte count. So when you go to your doctor, you could say something like, I would like a full iron panel, CBC, serum iron, TIBC, ferritin, and reticulocyte count. And you can write it down before you go in so you have it on a piece of paper so that you don't forget. That's something that easily happens. Now let's talk food first, because food is always where we want to start. Heme iron sources are going to be important, okay? So heme iron is going to be the most bioavailable, meaning your body absorbs them most efficiently. Yes, we want these. These come from animal products, animal foods, red meat, dark poultry, organ meats like liver. Now, non-heme sources like lentils, chickpeas, spinach, tofu, and fortified foods also contribute, but always pair them with a vitamin C source to significantly boost absorption, okay? Because non-heme iron isn't as bioavailable as heme iron. So we want to make sure that we're pairing that vitamin C with it. So this could be a squeeze of lemon on your spinach, bell peppers with your lentils, strawberries with your oatmeal. Small pairing is a big difference. And I also want you to consider your coffee and your tea, because these are great. We love our coffee, we love our tea, but when you're pairing them alongside iron-rich meals, the tannins inside the tea can definitely interfere with the absorption. So wait at least an hour. It's not that you don't or you can't have coffee or tea. Let's just make sure that we kind of like separate them a little bit. I want to be very direct with you as well, because I see mamas making this mistake all the time. So please listen up, okay? Do not go out and buy a high dose iron supplement without knowing your actual ferritin level first. The dose, the timing, and the type of iron supplement all matter enormously, and they are completely individualized based on your starting point and what works for you. Too much iron causes its own problems. It can be constipation, nausea, oxidative stress, and in some cases, it can actually interfere with zinc and copper absorption. So iron supplementation is not this one size fits all. Like, okay, go get some iron and just take it and you'll be fine. And it is not something just to do casually. The amount matters as well, and we can play around with that too, because if we're taking too much, it can actually make things worse. I also want to flag that other nutrients are involved in making healthy red blood cells beyond just iron. So a lot of the times providers or people will just think iron's the issue, we just have to supplement iron. But when you think of creating and you walk through the process of creating a healthy red blood cell and what that requires, you're looking at vitamin B6, you're looking at copper. These are going to be really important for red blood cell production. You're looking at magnesium and other micronutrients. And so if your iron panel looks relatively okay, but you are still symptomatic, these are worth looking into. And so an RDW percentage, which is usually included in a CBC, is something that I look at specifically, because let's say your ferritin and your iron looks great, we're still experiencing these symptoms. I look at your RDW percentage and it's over 13. That can definitely tell me that we have some other issues with these other micronutrients. So this is where working with someone one-on-one who can actually look at the full picture really, really matters. The specific supplement, the form, the dose, and the timing, that is what we work on together based on your actual numbers in that functional lab review that I mentioned. And I'm not going to give you a blanket statement. I'm not going to give you this blanket recommendation here on the podcast, because I would be doing you a disservice if I did. That's not right. What I will tell you is that once you know your ferritin and we build a plan around it, the difference in how you feel can be remarkable night and day. I watched my own energy transform as my ferritin went from 20 to 54. I have watched it happen with dozens of mamas and clients that I've worked with, and the data matters. So get your numbers first. Book your functional lab review at wellnessbyval.com/labs. The link is in the show notes. So let's go ahead and really dive into B12 and folate. So we talked about anemia with iron, and I want to really dive into megaloblastic anemia. I'm putting these two together, B12 and folate, intentionally because they are deeply connected, and understanding how they work together is going to make this click in a way that a lot of generic health content misses. So let's first start with low B12, low folate. what they actually feel like, because some of these overlap, and this is part of the why they can get missed. Low B12 looks like a heavy, flat kind of fatigue that feels different from tired. And sometimes it can be hard to differentiate the types of fatigue sometimes as well. Low mood or feeling emotionally blunted. We're really low in our B vitamins, mama, especially after giving birth. And this has a lot to do with not only our energy physically, but also mentally and emotionally as well. So we have to also think of our mental health. So other symptoms, difficulty concentrating, remembering things beyond the normal mom brain, of course, tingling or numbness in your hands or feet. This is actually a nerve symptom, and it means depletion has likely been going on for a while. A sore or swollen tongue, and sometimes a pale or slightly yellowish tint to your skin. Low folate looks like fatigue, weakness, irritability, difficulty concentrating, mouth sores, and also, this is important for anyone thinking about pregnancy again, folate is critical for neural tube development in early pregnancy. And this is something that Lily Nichols, a registered dietitian, and I talked about in a earlier podcast episode interview that I did with her. So go back and listen to that. And this is often before you know you were pregnant. So we want to make sure that we're taking folate and we're taking it well before we are trying to get pregnant. So folate matters not just for postpartum, but ongoing for any woman in the reproductive age. So now here is where the anemia piece comes in, and this is different from iron deficiency anemia. When B12 or folate is too low, your body cannot make DNA properly. And because red blood cells divide rapidly and constantly, they are one of the first cell types affected. Without enough B12 or folate, red blood cells get stuck in an immature state. They grow large, but they cannot divide and mature properly. This is called macrocytic anemia. Macro means large. And again, we can kind of see this on a CBC as well as when we look at our B12 and our folate plus our symptoms. Now, this is the opposite of those small cells we see in iron deficiency. These large, immature red blood cells cannot carry oxygen as efficiently as healthy, mature red blood cells. So again, less oxygen to your tissues, less energy, more exhaustion. But the mechanism is completely different from iron deficiency, which is why the solution is also completely different and why knowing which type of anemia, if any, is present actually matters. And here is one thing that makes this even more nuanced. It is possible to have both iron deficiency and B12 or folate deficiency at the same time, for sure, 100%, especially after giving birth, especially when you're postpartum. When that happens, the CBC can actually look deceptively normal because the small cells from iron deficiency and the large cells from B12 and folate deficiency average each other out. This is exactly why running the full panel, not just the basic blood count, the CBC, is so important. We have to look at the full picture here. So, what to ask for? CBC, this is already covered. This is already on your list. We want to add a B12 and we want to add a folate. So when you're talking to your doctor, can you check my B12? Can you check my folate levels? They are simple add-ons that are almost never included in a standard panel unless you specifically request them. Functional optimal ranges for B12, you want to be between roughly 400 and 800 picograms per milliliter. Conventional labs flag deficiency below 200. There's a significant gap. For folate, functional optimal is generally above 20 nanomoles per liter, though this can also, it just varies depending on the lab. Now let's talk food. From a food perspective, for B12, again, let's talk about animal proteins. Those are your primary sources, okay? Beef, salmon, sardines, eggs, dairy. B12 is found almost exclusively in animal products. So if you are mostly or fully plant-based, vegetarian, vegan, this is a nutrient where supplementation becomes essential, and something that I definitely want to talk about with you when we meet and when we're one-on-one. Because if you're not eating animal foods, especially if you're not eating beef, salmon, sardines, eggs, and dairy, right? Like that, you're missing out on B12. And that is essential. So also worth knowing, certain medications significantly impair B12 absorption. Metformin used for blood sugar management. So this can be for whether you have diabetes or PCOS, and long-term proton pump inhibitors like omeprazole for acid reflux are the big ones. If you are on either of those, please make sure your B12 is monitored. For folate, what are we talking about when it comes to food? Dark leafy greens, legumes, avocado, eggs, and citrus fruits are your best sources. Yum. And if you are still taking your prenatal, which I highly recommend for most postpartum mamas, especially if you're breastfeeding, you are getting folate from that too. Now, you do want to make sure that your prenatal has full methylfolate and not folic acid, because absorption and utilization of folate also depends on a genetic variation called the MTHFR gene. When I look at it, I call it the mother effer gene. It's kind of funny. But if you have that variant, which most people have it and they don't know, the form of folate in your supplement matters a lot. This is a conversation for a functional lab review because it is very, very individualized. So again, specific supplement forms and dosing for both B12 and folate are something I work through based on your actual lab numbers and your symptoms, your health history, and more. Not something I can just responsibly give blanket recommendations on. So this is definitely why we want to meet one-on-one. Okay, before we move into vitamin D, I want to give you one clean list of everything to request, because I know some of you are going to be at your doctor's office next week. I'm going to be there in 2 weeks, and I want you to be prepared. So for iron, CBC, serum iron, TIBC, ferritin, reticulocyte count. For B12 and folate, ask for both together. And then of course for vitamin D, we want a 25 hydroxy vitamin D. So let's talk about that. So write these down, head to wellnessbyvel.com/labs. If you don't have labs or you're not getting anytime soon, then schedule a one-on-one where we can actually order those labs, okay? And then we can review it. If you already have your labs or you're about to order some with your primary care, then we can still meet one-on-one to review that. When those results come in, this is where the real work begins, because having the numbers is one thing. Knowing what they actually mean for you and your body and your life and what's going on with your symptoms, that is totally another thing. Okay, let's dive into vitamin D, the one everyone has heard of and almost nobody has enough of. Here is what low vitamin D looks like in real life. Fatigue. Yes, again, I know, fatigue, but also low mood or seasonal depression, muscle weakness or achiness, slow recovery after workouts, getting sick more often than you feel like you should be, bone pain, especially in your back or legs, difficulty concentrating. And vitamin D, again, most people are going to be low. And here's what makes vitamin D particularly relevant for postpartum mamas. Pregnancy significantly depletes your vitamin D stores. Your baby took what they needed for bone development. And again, we love this. That's what the body should be doing. But again, you're coming out of pregnancy super depleted. This is like with any and every single nutrient, okay? So you're coming out of pregnancy after you give birth more depleted than when you went in. And if you were breastfeeding, your milk is transferring vitamin D to your baby, and that's going to pull more from your stores. And depending on how much you're supplementing with will depend on how much is actually transferring to baby. Conventional labs flag deficiency below 20 nanograms per milliliter. Oh my gosh. This gets me, because a functional optimal range is generally considered 50 to 80 nanograms per milliliter. Okay. That is a big difference. Most people are sitting somewhere in between, and they're getting a normal flag, and they're wondering why they feel so flat and tired. So like, I meet with moms and I meet with clients, and they're like, my vitamin D is 28. My PCP told me to take 1,000 IUs of vitamin D. Yeah, probably not. That's like way too low, right? We want to make sure that you're 50 to 80. Now, vitamin D is also unique because unlike most nutrients, food alone is usually not enough to optimize your levels. The best food sources are fatty fish like salmon and sardines, egg yolks, and fortified foods, but the amounts are relatively small. Sunlight helps, but depends hugely on where you live and the season and how much skin exposure you actually get. Most people need to supplement, but the dose depends entirely on your current level, because vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin. So if I just go tell you, or if someone tells you, hey, go take 10,000 IUs of vitamin D, one, does it have K2 in it? Because vitamin K2 with vitamin D helps increase the absorption. Two, do you need 1,000 IUs? Because if you don't, and you're getting way higher of a dose, that can actually be toxic. That's pretty rare, but it can still be toxic. So that's why we need to know what your level is. Depending on that, depending on your symptoms, we'll recommend a certain amount. And then we want to make sure that we get that rechecked within, 3 to 6 months to be able to assess, okay, is it going up? Do we need to decrease our dose? That is going to be important and something that we talk about in a functional lab review assessment. Okay, so what do you ask for your doctor? I mentioned this a little bit earlier. Can you check my 25 hydroxy vitamin D level? It's that specific marker, not just vitamin D. Okay, it's 25 hydroxy vitamin D. and look for your number to be in that 50 to 80 range, not just above 20. Supplementation is individualized, like I said. So here's where I want to be really honest with you. I just gave you a lot of information. I gave you the what and the why for all of these different nutrients and what they feel like and the ranges, foods to support each one. And I did that intentionally because you deserve to understand your own body. But here's what I deliberately did not give you. Okay, specific supplement recommendations, specific dosing in a personalized protocol based on your labs and your symptoms. I am not meeting with you right now. I am not your dietitian. I would love to work with you. And to be able to do that, we have to meet one-on-one, and we have to do that the right way, because I can't just give out these general recommendations because it's going to be different for every single mom that I meet with. Your supplementation at the wrong dose can cause real problems. Vitamin toxicity is a thing. Like I said, it's rare, but it's still there. And B12 and folate supplementation in the right form matters depending on whether you have certain genetic variations. Okay, so just going out there to buy any supplement on Amazon or at the store or what so-and-so on TikTok is selling, we have to first understand what's going on with you. So this is not me gatekeeping information. This is me being a responsible clinician, dietitian who wants to actually help you feel better and not accidentally make things worse. Okay, that is not ethical. That is not right. And that is not what I'm here for. So here's what I want you to do. There are two paths forward. Path one, you already have labs, maybe from a recent physical or from the last time you pushed your doctor to run blood work. If you have those results sitting in your patient portal right now, and they're within the last year, I want to look at them with you. This is exactly what the functional lab review is about. You book a session with me, you upload your labs to the portal, and we go through them together through a functional medicine lens. Not just you're in range, you're good, this isn't bad, this is bad, this is good, whatever. But where you are in that range, what does it mean for you and how you're feeling? And what are the most important things to focus on first? In this 30-minute session, we review your labs and you leave with clarity. Now, the 60-minute session is where we review your labs and I build you a written personalized action plan with specific nutrient priorities, supplement recommendations with dosing, and lifestyle strategies based on your results and your symptoms. So it's either a 30-minute session to review the labs or a 60-minute session where we create your own personalized action plan. Path number two, if you don't have labs yet, or the last time you had blood work was 2 years ago at an annual physical and they only ran like the basics, right? It's not everything that we want. I can order the right panels through my practitioner account. So we are looking at the same markers that we need to for postpartum active mama. So it's the same 60-minute session. The lab costs separate. So I don't add on this extra fee to order your labs for you. That's not right. I don't agree with that. And I'm completely transparent before anything is ordered, right? So depending on your symptoms, depending on what you filled out in the assessment form, I can say, hey, you know what, based on what I'm seeing and what you're saying, I'm recommending this for your panel. Here's the total cost, and you decide, and you actually put that in. So head to wellnessbyval.com/labs. I will also link it directly in the show notes so that you can be able to check that out and get that scheduled. I'm only accepting a limited amount of people just because this is one-on-one support and that takes time. And I want to make sure that I can give you the quality time in that one-on-one. If you're already inside the Strong, Nourished, and Energized Mom Method, my 8-week group coaching program, this is something we work together through inside the program. Blood work review is part of the personalized support you get as a member. Okay, let's land the plane. Land the plane, Val. The 4 nutrient deficiencies most commonly stealing your energy as a mama. Number 1, iron and ferritin. Optimal range is 50 to 100 nanograms per milliliter. Ask your doctor to run your ferritin specifically, focus on heme iron food sources, and pair plant-based iron with vitamin C. Number 2 and number 3, B12 and folate. Optimal range is 400 to 800 picograms per milliliter for B12. For folate, functional optimal is generally above 20 nanomoles per liter. Ask for your B12 and your folate level specifically. It is not always included in a standard panel. Most of the time it's not. Prioritize animal proteins and know that certain medications can affect absorption. Number 3, vitamin D. Optimal range is 50 to 80 nanograms per milliliter. Ask for 25 hydroxy vitamin D. Food alone is usually not enough, but the right dose for supplementation, and if it's with the right nutrient, K2, depends on your starting point. So your action step this week, call or message your doctor's office and request these labs, or look in your portal. Did you get these labs run? when was the last time? And you can literally say, hey, these are the labs that I want on my next panel. Write it down so that you don't forget. This is something that I'm going to be doing along with other labs in 2 weeks when I go to my OB. And when those results come in, bring them to me. This is what the functional lab review is for. The link is in the show notes, or head to wellnessbyval.com/labs. Okay. That's it. That's what I have for you. Thank you so much for being here today, Mama. This is the stuff I am so passionate about because I know how life-changing it is when you finally have real answers about what is going on in your body. If this episode helped you, please share it, text it to a mama friend, post it on Facebook, Instagram, tag me at wellnessbyval_ when you share it to your stories. I'm going to reshare everything that I see, as long as you are not private. If you're public, I'll be able to see it. If you're private, I won't be. So just know that I'm not ignoring you. And go back and listen to episode 94 if you haven't yet. Today's episode is like a part 2 of that conversation, and they go hand in hand with one another. Next Monday, we have something really special coming. I cannot wait to share it with you. Make sure you are subscribed. I will see you then. Stay strong, stay nourished, and I'll see you next week. Hey Mama, I hope you loved today's episode. If you got something out of it or simply enjoyed listening, would you please take 30 seconds to share it with another mom who could use the support? And if you haven't yet, I would be so grateful if you could leave a quick review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you tune in. It truly means the world to me, and it helps the show reach more amazing moms like you. All right, time to go chase my toddler around. Stay strong and nourished, and I'll be back on Monday with another episode. Talk soon.